I'm Justin Mott. Welcome to my home in Hanoi, Vietnam, and today we're going to talk about, are photographers cocky or arrogant? So what are the signs? How do you know? How do you know if you're a cocky photographer? Well, if you do 3 of the following things I'm going to point out, you are a cocky photographer. Ever since I've been a photographer, my friends and my brothers have given me a lot of crap about things that photographers do that are cocky. I've always seen that as chefs. I always thought chefs were pretty cocky, that they even called each other chef. It's like if we called each other photographer. Hey, photographer Justin Mott, or photographer. I think it's kind of weird. And through the years, I've caught a lot of crap for some of the things I do from non-photographers, civilians we'll call them. And so I thought it'd be time to point these things out. Things that I do, things that probably you do, that make you a cocky photographer. So I'm just gonna get right into it. All right, the first one, biggest pet peeve of mine and very cocky thing to do, probably number 1. Well, I'm putting it number 1, so I guess I think it is number 1, but these are not in any sort of order at all. If you've ever seen or ever done this move, you ready for this? Where you go around and make a rectangle at stuff, and then you nod, that's like double extra cocky. If you're doing like a scouting day for a professional job, it's still pretty cocky, but if you're just like in a social atmosphere and you just do one of these, like, oh, hold on a second. And like you tell people to stop, which is also ridiculously cocky, and you do this. Like, come on, really? Like you can just look and tell, or if you have your camera on, just look through your camera. But like this move, extremely cocky. I mean, come on. Writing an article about being a cocky photographer is in itself pretty cocky, so come on. The next being one-name photographers. I'm sure you've seen these bylines before. It just says one name on there. You thought they made a mistake and left out the last name. They didn't. The photographer actually goes by one name, which is very cocky. Probably the most famous one would be Platten. This isn't a knock on Platten's work, but come on, one name. There is an exception to this rule, and some of these will have an exception. The exception is if your birth certificate just says Platten, or just the one name, I'll allow this. But if you've decided just to go by one name as a photographer, you're pretty cocky. This move, this is one of my favorites. If you're ever taking pictures with your camera and you call someone over to look at the picture, like they didn't ask to see, whether it's a client or even just a friend or whoever, if you've like called someone over and done this one, like showed it and then done this face, like I nailed it or I got it, that's like ultimate cockiness. Like you've taken a picture, you've called someone, they didn't ask to see it. Now that's different, but you've already made the face for them. You've already determined that this is like an awesome shot. So you show the picture and you're like, that one, come on. Having any sort of blog about your blog or a blog about your vlog, like pretty meta, but if you had like a recap, like your thing was so complex you needed to go into it further, that's pretty cocky. Scarves are definitely cocky, very cocky. You see them a lot in the documentary world, the photojournalist world. Scarves are cocky, but the ultimate cockiness is having the scarf and correcting someone when they say, hey, nice scarf, and you say, no, it's actually, and you insert the name of like the local name for scarf in that country. So in Cambodia, for example, the scarves are called like a krama. So if someone said nice scarf and you're like, actually, this is a krama, and you correct them, that's really cocky. I mean, come on. If the title of your blog or title of your website or title of your YouTube channel implies that you excel at photography by the name of it, that's really cocky. An example of this would be like Eye for Light, Light Stalker, Shadow Chaser, The Optician, The Rectangle Maker, something like really ridiculous. Holding a camera in your profile picture on your website, on your portfolio website, that's really cocky. I mean, why do you need a camera? We get it, you're a photographer. So like that shot of you in the mirror or you're just like holding up and looking at, we get it, we're on your website, we see all the pictures, we get that you're a photographer. You don't need to be holding a camera in the picture. I mean, you see like an accountant has a profile picture, they're just holding a calculator, like a dentist just has a toothbrush, like, we get it, come on. Not related to photography whatsoever, but I figured I'd toss this one out there because some photographers are guilty of doing this, but this is just for the masses. This is a pet peeve of mine. If you're ever taking a guitar out and just start singing in a public place, that's absolutely ridiculous, but even in a private setting at a party and no one asked you to, or not even no one asked you to, there's always that one friend that's like, oh, come on, sing, and you're like, oh, no, I don't want to, and then you just have your guitar there. Don't do it. It's extremely cocky. Unless, the exception is if you had like an anonymous poll and every person at that party or every person in that bar signed something that said they do want to hear you sing, and play the guitar, fine. If your email signature is actually longer than your email, that's ridiculously cocky, meaning like it says Justin Mott, and then website, and then phone number, and then satellite phone number, and then remote phone number, and then like your agency, and then your commercial website, and then your agency's agency, and then the phone number of your other phone number, things like that. If that email signature starts to get really long, again, longer than the email, come on. Wearing a flak jacket in your bio picture, or just sort of casually typing it out there in one of those threads, like, where do I buy a flak jacket? I'm going to, like, you're just trying to look impressive. Now, there is exception. There are photographers that need to wear flak jackets that go into a war zone. So the exception would be, if you've ever worn a flak jacket, like had to wear a flak jacket over 10 times in your career, you are allowed to wear a flak jacket in your bio picture. If you've worn it once to like a kid's party because you were nervous because they had Nerf guns, no, that's not allowed. You don't need to wear a flak jacket, and you should not be wearing one in your bio picture. I'm going to get into a couple of cocky brands here, and you might be surprised because I use these quite extensively. Leica. Leica's a pretty cocky brand. I love my Leica. I like my Leica system, but very cocky. There's sort of special edition stuff. There's Lenny Kravitz edition, Safari edition. It's really just essentially the same camera, but they just add like thousands of dollars, and they make a limited number of them, and they come in this ridiculously crazy box. And if you ever go to a Leica, they wear white gloves when they take them out. A photographer, you're gonna like ruin that camera within like a couple days. You're gonna beat it up. You're buying a Leica because of the metal build. Like, no one's gonna go out and shoot with those white gloves, so why are you displaying them with the white gloves? White gloves just in general cocky. Billingham is also a cocky company. They're a British bag making company. I actually have a Billingham over there. I don't know if you can see it. I like them, but they're very cocky as well. One of their bags is called the Packington. Come on. Gaffer tape on your camera, like fully done in gaffer tape, where you just see a lens popping out, that's very cocky. Never really go into a hot spot. You're not in a dangerous area. Like if street photography in the suburbs of Maine, and your camera's like all gaffer taped up, come on. Working into a conversation within the first 5 minutes that you only shoot film, and saying it in like a condescending way, like to people that shoot digital. Like, actually, I only shoot film. If you throw that in, if no one's asked you and you've just worked it into the conversation within 5 minutes, ridiculously cocky. There is one exception to this rule. If you're over 60 years old, you get a pass. You can talk about that. You can even wear like canisters on you. That's okay. If you're over 60, it's allowed. Anyone else, come on. While I'm on the film topic, also, the whole film thing, when you like gotta write like shot with film and all that, like, yeah, it's a little bit hard. You want people to know, but just one thing to know out there, and nothing against film shooters. I do respect people that do it properly and do it because of the process and they like the process. But if you're doing it just because you like talking about it more than you're doing it, come on. And in addition to that, like, film isn't an excuse for a bad photograph. A bad photograph is a bad photograph. It's not good because you took it with film, so just, come on. Mentioning magic hour or golden hour, working that into the conversation more than once with the same person is probably too much. If you just, I only shoot at magic hour. Oh, what's magic hour, you ask? Well, it's the first hour of the day when the sun's the best, or the last hour. So if you've said the terms magic hour or said the words golden hour like more than once with the same person, with like a civilian, come on. Wearing a vintage camera to an exhibition. So if you're a photographer and you wore a vintage camera to your exhibition, we get it. We know that you're the photographer there. You were there because of your work. We don't need to know, like, we don't need reinforcement. Oh, okay, okay, he's got the camera, and okay, we get it. That's cocky. What's also cocky is wearing a vintage camera to someone else's exhibition. Like, you also want people to know, like, hey, I think that guy might be, is that the guy that took these? Or that guy's definitely a photographer because he has a camera. The exception to this is like if you're a friend of the person who's exhibiting the work and you're taking some BTS scenes from that, that's allowed. But if you're just wearing the camera to someone else's exhibition just so other people ask you about photography, come on. Shooting gloves are absolutely ridiculous and cocky. Like, anyone that wears a glove to take pictures, really? Like, you really need that? Or even better yet, like a finger sock, like a shutter thumbnail thing here, could put here, like a shutter sock. I'm gonna go check the patent office, see if I can make that. Like a little thing that would be pretty awesome, actually. It goes here, a little like grippy stuff here. If you're wearing a glove because you need the grip of that, like, you don't need a glove. Just stop, come on. Automated email responses that show that you're in like a really remote location. So example would be like, someone types me an email and my response is, sorry, I can't get to this. I'm away from Wi-Fi. I'm in a small village, basically saving the world. I probably won't be back for a couple weeks. I won't have access. Like, all right. Really, like, most places do have internet. There are exceptions, if you're in Antarctica and there's certain places, but like just like, you're really, that automated response is just so people know you're in a cool place doing something cool. So Like, just take it easy. Like, or if you have done it, and then you do get, if you have done one of these email responses and then there is a Wi-Fi signal, you do owe the rest of us an apology, because I want to know that you were able to check. Because most of the time people send those, you get the automated response, and then I get the email right afterwards. Like, oh, hey, I'm like, well, what happened to the, you're in a remote village where they don't have electricity, blah, blah, blah. So if you did do that, that's okay. But if you were able to get email access, you need to email everybody one by one, explain to them that you weren't in as remote places as you originally thought you were going to be. Come on. So that's it for this edition of What Makes Photographers Cocky. So if you've done 3 or more of these things, are you a cocky photographer? Let me know in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Take it easy.